Joining us right now, Texans Radio, is the head coach of the Houston Texans, David Culley. Coming off the bye, Coach, first of all, how was it? What can you share with us about how you spent the time?
Well, it was good. I did take a little time off, and notice I said little.
Right.
Just a little. Coaching staff and we gave our players a little time off. And then once we had that little time, before we took that little time off, I want to emphasize little again, is that we started some self-scouting of ourselves. We started finding out exactly what we can do better going into the second half of the season, and basically feel good about where we're headed right now.
Coach, this is going to sound like a weird question because I know you have all the tape that you want. You got all the different angles because Tommy sends them to us when we do Telestrator, so I know that you have them. But with Tennessee coming up, do you actually watch the game broadcast to maybe try and hear things, or you just kind of have it on? How do you kind of approach it when you got a bye week and the team you're about to play is playing? How do you kind of handle that?
Well, I literally did not watch them.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, when I said I took a little time off, when I take that little time off, I'm not watching any football.
Right. Absolutely.
So, but what we do is we have people that do watch the TV copy, because you do get things from the TV copy. We will actually watch some of the TV copy ourselves just to kind of maybe get a signal or hear something that might be beneficial to you. But for the most part, it does have benefits of being able to see that.
Well, it's a good thing you don't watch Red Zone, because that's a 7-hour commitment that you can't tear yourself away from. So there's that. But was it good to have the little time off you talked about to refocus, rejuvenate, recharge to get ready for the second half? And I know you really haven't spent much time with the players yet, but I know that's coming up today.
Yes. It's good to do that. After 9 ball games, you're over halfway through the season. Some people got those bye weeks a little bit earlier, which works out good for them. But I felt like our bye week right now, with the situation that we're in, came at a perfect time for us. To kind of regroup, kind of look at ourselves as moving forward with 8 games left, which is a bunch of ball games.
Yep.
Is to be able to look and see what we need to do in the second half of the season to be able to turn things around. And we used that time to be able to do that. And I thought it was a good time for us to do that.
Because when you're planning things out, it's been a 16-game schedule for a long time. All of a sudden, it's one game. It's 17 games. That kind of changed things as to maybe how you approached anything before the season as you're going through the season, with that one extra game going from 16 games to 17 games?
I know from a coaching standpoint, not really. But I know from a player standpoint, a lot of those guys probably still would rather sit 16 games instead of 17 games, just because of the grind of the long season.
Of course.
The preseason games, the training camp to now. But obviously people want to see us on TV. And getting that extra game is there for us, and we're going to play it. And I guess for the most part, there are some teams that are going to play that 17th ball game, and that 17th ball game is going to matter to whether you continue to play on into January or not.
Coach, the flexibility you get with the expanded practice squad, the practice squad eligibility, and the ability to bring guys up freely and make those moves heading into a game weekend, do you like that? Do you see that might be here to stay with the 17 games? I know a lot of it was a COVID thing, but now that we're at the expanded season, people seem to like it.
It does work very well, Mark, simply because, things happen before games. Having that number of practice squad guys being able to practice helps, too, with having the 17th ball game, because you need to have those guys available to be able to practice, and plus to be able to train and get ready to play. And having that 17th game and having those guys, the extra players that we have on our practice squad, to being able to maneuver them, which Nick does a great job of maneuvering those guys from practice squad to inactive to COVID. There's all kind of rules about where you can and you cannot. Now, I don't know them, but Nick has got it down pat, and it's been really good for us because we've actually had to go through that this year a couple of times, and having the rule has really helped us.
Coach, with the Titans, it's what are we going into, week 11?
11.
Wow, we're into week 11. Now, when you're getting ready, you face 2 division teams already. You face them in the first 6 weeks of the year. You face the Jags in week 1, face the Colts in week 6. Sometimes those teams can be similar to maybe what you thought going into the year. But now that we've gotten to week 11, there's no Derrick Henry. He's gone on IR because of the injury. It seems like it might be a little different team because they don't have Henry, but maybe not. Given the time constraints of it's all the way to week 11, things that you thought going into the year where they are now, does that kind of change the thought process of going into the Titans, or do you kind of focus on what you've seen the last 4 or 5 weeks? How do you kind of handle going and facing a division team that you maybe did a lot of work and prep on at the beginning of the year, but now by week 11, it's a totally different ball game potentially with that group.
Well, they are who they are. And obviously not having Derrick Henry there is a big difference. That guy's probably 75 to 80% of their running game.
Yeah.
And probably about that high number of what they do on offense. But not having him, what we've seen on film, they're using 2 or 3 guys right now to replace him.
Right.
So basically,
Moneyball concept.
That's right. They're doing the same things that they would do running the football and playing offense and playing defense as they would if they had him there.
Yeah.
The difference is that they're doing it with 2 or 3 other guys. You know, that's a special guy.
Yeah.
And there's only one other guy like that in this league. And, of course, not having him, which goes to show what a good job Mike has done with that football team there, they've just gone on and still doing what they do, and they're doing a very good job of doing it.
Yeah.
Well, the guys have been at it for a while. They did have a little bit of time off, Coach, but how do you handle the physical nature of practice this week, coming back from the break and getting back into the flow of NFL regular season competition?
That's why today, Mark, we'll have them back. Actually gives us that extra day that we normally wouldn't have in a regular week. This would be a day that we would just bring them in, but we'll just watch the video. We actually go out and practice today, which kind of gets us back in the swing of things, which gives us an extra day to get them back in the swing of things. And then, Wednesday we start our regular week, and then we go from there. And at this point in the year, because of the way practice is set up, you're only allowed so many pad days.
Yeah.
And we're getting to that point right now where we only have a few of those left, so we have to adjust that at this point. But for the most part, we're going to practice just like we normally practice, do our preparation that we normally prepare for. And after 9 games, you kind of know exactly who you are and what you are right now, and we just kind of go about our business and do that.
Coach, you sort of stole my thunder, and that was you're getting to that point of the year in around November where you're not going to by the CBA, you're not allowed to have as many padded practices, if any at all. How does that sort of change the approach? I mean, obviously those rules were put in there for a reason, for player safety. We talked about that part. But when you're not able to sort of work that part of your craft during the week, especially for the big fellas up front, how do you kind of go about handling that? I mean, it was for first time as head coach, but those rules have been around for a few years. How do you kind of handle that as you get near the end of the season and there are no more padded practices?
Even before the rules came in, John, what ended up happening was I can remember at a couple of places I've at. Of course, I go back to Andy Reid because I was with him for so long.
Yeah.
At this time of year, there are times when you just take the pads off.
Yeah.
You take the pads off because you've been gone for so long. And the most important thing right now when you get to this time of the year is to keep them healthy.
Sure.
And basically, you go through training camp, and in our case, we're 9 ball games, which now is 12 ball games that we've played. In that you kind of know what you want to know about your team, and as a professional, you kind of know how to practice. And so, with or without pads, you go about the business the same way.
Yeah.
Coach, what can you tell us about Tyrod going into this week, having the time off after the subpar outing against the Dolphins? Really uncharacteristic for him. 3 interceptions. He's only done that once before in his career, and that was his second ever start. So what do you think this week as you try to get more rhythm for more success?
Well, having had that game under his belt, again, obviously it had been 7 or 8 weeks before he had played a game. And obviously he didn't play very well, and he was a little rusty. And having that game under his belt right now, and then obviously he did some things during the bye week to kind of stay in tune with things, and we feel like that he'll be right where he needs to be, just like when he started the season.
What can Davis do to improve while he's not playing and watching and learning that kind of thing? What can he do to help up his game in this scenario?
Continue to do what he did before Tyrod got hurt. His preparation has always been there. He takes all of our show team reps in practice. He's been fortunate that he's had 6 ball games now where he's started, and that's invaluable for him. He'll just continue to prepare just like he's the starter, just like he always has, except he doesn't get the first team reps that he normally would get.
Coach, at this time of the year with rookies, the year before, if they were playing, I know Nico opted out, but if they were playing, the college season's pretty close to being over, whereas we got 8 weeks left in this marathon of an NFL season. How tough does that become for the rookies, and how much help or assistance to kind of bring them along is needed to, like, hey man, we got another week. I know your college season was this, but that's the NFL. You got to learn how to handle it. How tough does that become for the rookies to have to try and learn to deal with that longer schedule? Because they'd be done and going home for holiday break seemingly soon, But now they got 8 games left.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is when you got veterans on your team that's been there and done that,
Yeah.
it's always good that those guys are very good mentors and helping those guys understand that, usually when you come in this league, back in the old days, they said there was like 2 walls you hit. There's a rookie wall that people hit.
Yeah.
And usually it's about this time of year. At that time we had 4 preseason games, and now we've had 9, so that's 13 games. That's a college football season.
Yeah.
And then now we got 8 more games left to go, which is another season for those guys. And basically, you adjust to it.
Yeah.
They understand that that's part of growing in this league. That's part of being a rookie. And for the most part, our guys have done a really good job of that because of our veteran group that's on our football team now has prepped them on what's going to happen. All of a sudden, they think they a little bit sore or they're hurting a little bit, and then you realize it's really not that bad. That's just part of the grind of the NFL football season. As they use that old saying all the time, the NFL is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And you have to pace yourself through that.
Coach, after watching tape and self-scouting, what can you tell us about your ability to run the football better and try to run the football better? I know this is something you've wanted to do, and sometimes I think we from the outside looking in tend to look at the running game and the passing game as 2 different things, but they kind of work together, right? If you're passing it well short anyway, well, maybe it opens up some things in the ground game. What can you tell us about that?
Mark, when you're doing things the right way and consistently, it's one unit. They do work together. And one of the things that we did during this bye week is go back and look at especially our run game and our pass game and see what we did well. And you want to concentrate on those things that you did well, and some of the things that you didn't do well that you were doing, eliminate those things where you can do those things that you do well better and do more of that. And when you do that, same thing in the passing game, is all of a sudden you mesh that good together, and then what ends up happening is now all of a sudden you come back and I go back to the 2 things that we always talk about, I know offensively as being consistent, is you don't turn the ball over and you eliminate penalties, bad penalties. Is when you do that and you realize what you are and you concentrate on what you do well, then going forward, I think the consistency will be there in our run game, and we kind of know now what we are. We kind of know what we do well, and we know our players a little bit better now. We know what they do well, and we put those guys in position to be able to do the things that we do well and not do the things that we have been doing earlier when maybe we weren't quite as good at doing.
Coach, thankfully, the road games we've played, Arizona inside, Indy inside, Miami was as gorgeous a day as possible. Tennessee can be sort of tricky, so a little either or. Would you rather play a snow game or rather play a 95-plus degree heat? What would you rather have?
Neither.
Okay.
All right.
But
I
get it, but you got to pick one.
But probably the snow game. I would say the snow game simply because the heat is the heat. And I feel like with us, we can adapt, and our players can adapt to when you're playing in those snow games. I mean, snow games are football in some parts of this country. I mean, that's part of it. Not here in Houston, but that's part of it. I've been a part of one of the worst ones that you could ever be in.
The Lions game?
Actually, the Colts
game, yeah.
The Colts game where you couldn't even see across the other sideline in the game.
Yeah.
And Marc was just talking about the run game and those kind of things. I just remember in that ball game when we played that game is that obviously we didn't throw very many passes, but in that particular ball game is you had to run the ball. You got physical. People got tough. You kind of felt like you were playing football.
Yeah.
The good old football days.
Right.
I can remember back in the NFL, the old Minnesota Vikings before they went inside and they played at old Metropolitan Stadium in Minnesota. I used to love watching those games where the snow was down. I always felt like that was an advantage, to be able to do that.
Bud Grant.
Right, exactly right, Marc. Those guys, that Purple People Eaters and Fran Tarkenton, those guys. I mean, that was football, and that's part of it, And fortunately for us, we play indoors. We play a bunch of games indoors, but it really doesn't matter. But I know our players would rather play in the snow than play in the hot.
All right, we'll get back to more Texan stuff, but I'll throw in the Amegy Bank Ask Coach question of the week now, which is about, high school playoffs are going on right now in the state of Texas. And you've told some high school football stories before, Coach, but what is it about high school football that bonds people together? Even these guys in this locker room will say, yeah, those were the days. There were some incredible bonds. What is it about high school football that creates that?
Well, here in this state here, it's unbelievable because the football game is more than just a game. It's an event. It's a community thing. Every town, obviously, during football season is involved in that. And there's a closeness with everybody involved with football. And of course, when you're fortunate enough in this state to be in the playoffs, just like in the NFL, when you're fortunate enough to be in the playoffs in the NFL, it goes to a whole different level. And right now in this state with the playoffs going on, I mean, it's great to see it. I mean, it's a whole community event. I'll say this here. I can remember going to some high school football games, especially some playoff games in some of these small towns. Mm-hmm. And I can remember now, if there were like burglars and crooks around, they would be able to get away with a bank robber because everybody was at the game. Everybody was at the game, and because it was more than just a game. It's a community thing. It's for everybody enjoys, and everybody loves that. And that's the beauty of high school football here in the state of Texas.
And we get later in November. Now the holidays get involved, and you get football on Thanksgiving. I know we don't play a Thanksgiving game, which last year we did, it's okay, but football and the holidays seemingly go together. Always, no matter it's high school, football, college, or NFL. Do you like having a game on Thanksgiving? I know we don't have one this year, but
no, I've had a few.
few.
I've had a few on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It's just part of it.
Yeah.
It's part of it. You do it. We make sure we get the turkey the day before.
Right.
Right.
And then we go and we play the game on Thanksgiving. And when it's over with, the good thing I'll say about playing on Thanksgiving is that you kind of get that little mini buy.
You get that mini buy, yeah.
That little mini buy, which is a pretty good thing.
Yeah, that's
All right, we'll ask you about Thanksgiving dinner next week.
Yeah.
That's for
All right.
Thanksgiving week. But, Coach, all right, so back to some things here regarding this team. The tight end position, let's focus on that for a moment because you have different kinds of players, different skill sets among the group. What are you looking for here in these final 8 games of the regular season from that group as a whole? Because you have the rookie in Jordan, you have 2 more experienced guys, and not everybody's been up at the same time. You have Auclair from Canada who's contributed as well. What are you thinking here, Coach?
Well, they've all been contributors. Every tight end that we've had up during the games, and we've always had 3 up, they've all been contributors. And as you've mentioned, they all have different skill sets. But they all are good enough to do whatever we need to get done. It's been good to see Jordan up because he's had some productive games for us. It's obviously you see that he's got a bright future here in this league with Pharaoh and Jordan, Akins, and those guys have done a good job for us. They've done a good job for us, and they all have something that they bring to the table, and we just want to keep more consistency coming there.
Coach, defensively, up on the defensive line, it feels like each and every week the group up front seemingly gets better and better, and everybody's getting involved. When you go back and you look, I know it's not all about the stat sheet, I know that, but when you look at the stat sheet, Roy had a sack, Grenard had a tackle for a loss, you had Malik who had a pick, his first one ever. Ross was the one who forced that pick. From the defensive front, what you've seen with those guys up front, what have you seen when you went back and you looked at, hey, this group is actually giving us an opportunity because of how they're playing up there? What'd you like about that defensive front when you went back and looked at it?
We're fortunate with that group that Bobby does a great job with those guys, and those guys is probably one of the deeper groups that we have.
Yeah.
And we play 7 or 8 guys every week, and those guys are usually fresh. And a lot of teams in the league do the same thing, but we're fortunate to have that many guys be able to play, and then their production goes up because they're fresh and they do a great job, and that's a close-knit group there too, and they've just been playing lights out for us, and hopefully we continue to do that moving forward.
Well, one of the things, I know the record isn't anywhere close to where you want it to be, Coach, but when the season began or in the offseason, you said, we want to take the ball away. We want to be good at that. And you're good at taking the ball away. So that has to be a silver lining in all this, that you've been able to get some takeaways. You had 5 in the last game, get some takeaways from the opponent and live up to what you were preaching in the offseason.
Well, that's been a plus, Mark and John, and hopefully that continues. We preach it, we practice it. The one thing that we wanted to do moving forward, which we did a good job the last 2 ball games, is eliminate the big plays. And I think when you eliminate the big plays and you take care of the football, when you get those turnovers, those takeaways that we get end up translating into, when you don't turn the ball over, end up translating into wins. And hopefully we can take care of the ball better, continue to get those those takeaways, and things get turned around when you do that.
Coach, we talked about Derrick Henry in this run game for Tennessee going forward. But when Ryan Tannehill was placed in as the starting quarterback, it's like everything seemingly changed for the Titans because they had that run game. But, oh, by the way, if you get too heavily involved, he can pull it out, he can boot, he can throw it deep, he can do a lot of different things. Oh, yeah, he was a former wide receiver, so he can move. He's a former first-rounder. What do you see in Ryan Tannehill, and what does he mean to that Titans offense and what you've seen this year?
He's been playing very good football for them, and he's the one that makes it go from the standpoint of getting them in the right play.
Right.
When they are throwing the football, he's throwing it very well. He's been consistent. He's a winner.
Yeah.
And, they're the right now. If you played in the playoffs, they'd be the number one seed in the AFC, and he's a big part of that because you always got to have that guy pulling the trigger to be in the situation that they're in, and he's done a tremendous job of doing that for them. He fits what they do very well.
Fit.
You've done so many things as a coach, associate head coach prior to this, and position coach, various positions and everything, and been a lot of places, coach. So how do you handle the staff in this situation where everybody's a professional, players, coaches alike, and you got to gear up for every week, but being what it is, the record, how do you keep everybody going? How important is it to do that, or is that pretty much automatic?
Well, I wouldn't say it's automatic, but here's the thing about it is that we know what we're capable of being.
Right.
And we've always said records don't matter when you're playing each week.
Yeah.
What matters is the next team. Our record is not what we want it to be, but we have 8 games left. We have enough season left to be able to turn that thing around where the record becomes a matter. But right now, the most important thing is the next opponent and then the next win. People talk about the losing streak. We don't ever talk about a losing streak. All we want and all we do every week is thinking about having a 1-game winning streak.
Right.
And that's the goal, and that's how you approach it in this league. Whether you're 8-1 or 1-8, I've been on football teams that approached it that way, and that way you stay consistent. And when you are going through some tough times like we've gone through, that's how you get it turned around. And it just takes one to do that.
Coach, you said you got away for a little bit. When you got away, were you able to just completely get away from it, or was it always just kind of sitting there in the back of your mind?
Well, I never talked to anybody about football.
Yeah.
But I talked to myself about football.
Yeah.
But nobody knew that. So that if you want to say I got away, that I got away.
Right.
The people that were around me felt like I got away. But in reality, no, it's always there.
It's always there. I mean,
always there.
I mean, you can't turn that even in the off season.
Hey, listen, I'm a football coach.
Yeah.
I don't know anything else.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do anything else. So, again, it is who I am.
Right. I have one more about the staff because there's a lot of staff football operations that's not really directly related to coaching. The video guys, although you need that stuff. Athletic trainers, guys who set up the practice gear, all the materials around there. I'm forgetting people, the equipment guys, and they're related certainly to winning, but not very directly. They're not calling whether you're going to go for it on 4th down or not, Coach. How important is it to keep those people going and recognize what their contributions are on a regular basis?
They all understand what we're all about. And as I said this when I first got this job here, it is about everybody in this building. We are all one, from our sports performance people to our strength and conditioning to our nutrition people, our cafeteria people, our trainers, and our equipment staff. Let me tell you what they do a great job of. They make it easy on us to go out and do our job because they're all wonderful in what their role is on this team, and they're first class in everything they do, and it just makes it so much better for us to be able to go do what we need to do.
Yeah, no doubt. Coach, when you mentioned staff, I was thinking about film guys. We talked about this a little bit. How quick can you get what it is you want to see versus, say, 10 years ago, 20 years ago when you started coaching, the difference in how long it would take to get, like, if you want, hey, I want to see all the third downs that they have against every single team. How fast can you get that?
Well, when I go back to the old days, it's scary to think about how fast you can get things right now. Sometimes I get it too fast. Sometimes I can't decipher it because they get it to me so quick.
Yeah.
I tell them I want it, but I really didn't need it till an hour from now.
Right.
And I get it in 5 minutes, But it's amazing. But what it does, though, it allows you to be able to efficiently do your job from the standpoint of scouting.
Yeah.
It allows you to do things from a game plan standpoint in a hurry. It's just amazing how our video people, and then same thing with our analytics people, with the information that you need around the league or what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how resourceful it is to have that available to you.
Have you ever just tried to test them a little bit? Hey, I want all 4th down plays outside on Thursday night against the Bears.
Listen,
have you ever tried?
They can push a button, and I bet you they can eventually get it. And if they don't have it right then, they'll call somebody and see about getting it done.
That's
Boy,
amazing.
If you really wanted to mess with them, you could come up with some good stuff to force them to get it.
You could.
All right, did you finally see the new James Bond movie or not?
I have not seen it
Yeah,
yet.
either have I, Coach, and it's.
I'm telling you, Mark, you and I are probably going to see it.
Yeah,
the
we'll
same
see
time.
Y'all need to go together and see it.
We'll see it in February. It's
That's
made over
right.
$700 million. Unbelievable.
Amazing.
Unbelievable.
But listen to this, though. When we do see it, it won't be any differently than them $700 million that already seen it.
Yeah,
We'll
exactly.
get the same
Exactly.
thing.
Wait,
Well,
hold on. How many people have seen this thing?
No, $700 million. I
Oh,
think.
okay.
I think. And Coach,
Wow.
I was scanning the channel guide, and The Exorcist popped up, and I
You
thought
about
of you.
me?
Yeah, I know, which sounds strange to say, but it's Coach's favorite horror movie, right?
It is my favorite horror movie.
And there's
I'm
no way
telling
I'm
you.
going to watch it. I can just tell you that.
I get it. I understand.
Coach, thanks so much for being with us. And
You're
good
welcome.
luck.
Thank you very much.